Now, Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on the phone, of course, is Jeremy White, Montreal's #1 on-air personality. And as you can see, we have got from Right Said Fred Fairbase, and Richard Fairbrass.
Absolutely.
We have.
Bonjour, monsieur. And I'll start with this real quick. Back in 1992, I was on vacation in San Diego, and I went into the Tower Records, and I saw the Right Said Fred I'm Too Sexy EP with like 7 different versions. And something inside of me compelled me to buy that. Now, you have to understand, I'm a hard rock metal guy. I was all into the Bon Jovis and the Def Leppards and Metallica, and I saw this thing, and I don't know if it was just out of being, goofy, or if it was somewhat serious, but I bought it. And I have it downstairs. I should have brought it up for the camera. And I played the heck out of it because, going to the gym back then and being in university, every time there was a party, every time there was an event, every time you were working out in the gym, that song was on, and it became sort of the song of the summer, and then the song of the winter, and the song of the fall, and the song of the year. So thank you for that. Just great memories, love it.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. Jeremy.
No one's more surprised than us, I have to say.
Yes.
Jeremy.
True.
Well, it's funny because I was just reading something recently with an interview that two of you guys did, and you were talking about that song. I mean, there's so many different things about that song that are so cool, but Mitch, we want to talk about the production process and everything and how that song eventually became big. But I wanted to know, and this is an interesting question for me because I work in modern day top 40 pop radio, where we live in a sample-centric industry where everybody is taking everything that's old and making it new again. You look at what Taylor Swift did with the song, technically, but not at the same time. So I wanted to ask you guys this: when Taylor Swift writes a song and she takes that rhythm or melody and creates something new with it, how do you guys get credited on that? Because is it the rhythm, the duh 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 duh, or is it the notes?
It's jazz, baby. It's jazz.
Yeah, my personal opinion is the blurred lines case changed everything.
Right.
And post blurred lines, people are very, very twitchy about getting sued. So I'm guessing that they may have Shazammed the track in the studio and gone, this is sounding like something, Shazam, and maybe Sexy came up, or they just knew it. The first time we knew about it was we got a call from our publisher. And we had a chat with them about it, and that was the first time we heard anything about it. We didn't ever get directly contacted by Taylor Swift's sort of direct team, really.
No, or T as we call it.
Yes, his T.
Or Swifty.
Yeah, the big Swift.
The big Swift.
Yeah. Or Jack Antonoff. We didn't have direct contact from them.
They sent us a bunch of flowers.
They did send some nice flowers. Yes.
Oh.
No envelope of money in it, but
No money, just flowers.
Slightly disappointing. But no, all fairness, they did a pretty good job with that, and
they were very nice.
And yeah, we spoke to their PR people. It was pretty seamless, really. We had no dramas, and we've been paid as promised, and Aspat was as good as it can be, really.
She doesn't write.
No.
She doesn't write, and
no more Christmas cards.
No more Christmas cards.
Yeah.
No. So.
That bitch. I'm kidding. No, so it's funny though, because a song like that, I mean, the music video's got like almost like 200 billion streams or something like that. If this was 1992 and you're getting radio play of a sample like that, I mean, that would be a whole lot of dough coming in. And today, it's like she's sending you flowers and Christmas cards. I hope that turned into some monetary compensation.
Yes, it did. Yeah, we got paid. Yeah, and and we're still getting paid, actually. But obviously that song has got some legs, because on our, we get told which song is played where and why we're getting paid, and that song pops up a lot. So someone's playing it somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
We still don't really get it. I don't think we.
No.
Also, what dawned on us about 10 years after it was a hit was that you could put anything in the "I'm Too Sexy For" bit. So you could be, I'm too sexy for my shoes, or I'm too sexy for my...
It took us about a decade to trigger.
It took us a decade to figure that out. Oh, yeah, you can do that. That's clever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
We weren't really on it there. Really.
No, we just tend to write. You know, we're not a band in as much as there's just the two of us. Well, there was three of us, but now there's two of us. And so we don't have a sound. So we'll do sexy, and then we'll do something else, and we don't really know why that's successful and something else isn't, and then something else becomes successful, and we don't really know why that is either.
Yeah.
We're fairly
stupid,
and not very disciplined. We aren't one of those bands that can say, well, we wrote that like that, let's copy that and do it again. We don't work like that.
We can't do that.
No, we're rubbish. So why Sexy is so successful, I have no idea, because every record label we played it to almost vomited when they heard it, and kicked us out of the building. And so we just put it out as independent release. We weren't expecting much at all.
No.
And then you have it. You know, just went bonkers.
We just wanted to hear it. To be honest, we just wanted to hear it on the radio. That's all we wanted to do.
Yeah, before Sexy, we'd been signed to Capitol EMI in New York. And that was a fairly stressful deal, and nothing got released. It was horrible. And so we came back to London with our sort of tail between our legs, thinking we hate this.
Straight back to waiting table.
Yeah, straight back. Yeah, literally back in the restaurant, you know.
Yeah.
And then we did Sexy, and then we didn't. So we just thought, well, after the record label started saying we hate this, we just thought, oh man, let's just get it on the radio and see what happens. So, just by chance, the young girl who was managing us knew a radio plugger. And he took it into Radio 1, which was the station at the time in the UK, and took it in at breakfast time, which was bigger than drive time. I think it was their show. And Simon Bates was the DJ, and he had the foresight and the flexibility kind of to do what he wanted to do. So he played it off the acetate. They went in with the acetate, and they actually played it. And the phone, the phones went insane. So they played it again, and then. And he didn't stop. It just there was no promo plan or anything, because it went so fast, so quickly. We were just chasing it. We weren't ahead of the game ever. We were just chasing Mad Record.
Yeah. It was a real grassroots operation then. You kind of played it for somebody. She loved it, brought it to the presenter, and the guy threw it on the air.
I mean, people look at what loosely you would call the campaign at the time. It was really organised, and it really, really wasn't. It was the clothes we had in the video were clothes that we found at home, basically.
Yep.
And the record company had never been a record company. Our manager had never been a manager, and we had never been a band.
We're not with Rob.
Not with Rob.
Yeah, we were
on the circuit for years, obviously as in other outfits. But
let me ask you about that early beginning, because you started off as an acoustic duo.
Yeah.
You go on tour with Joy Division and these other bands.
Yeah.
What was the plan to be sort of a Bob Dylan-ish kind of band? And where did you sort of go, okay, this is not working, let's try something new?
We got bored. I mean, I think that's all it was. We did a lot of acoustic stuff. And we just used to wander into restaurants, you know, and play our own stuff, and then they'd kick us out. They'd kick us out before the entree.
We didn't bother getting booked. we didn't bother with bookings. We just turned up, and hoping nobody would notice.
Yeah, and in the end, we just got bored, I think, with the acoustic thing, because there was no groove and no beat and it didn't make enough noise.
Yeah.
And so we put an advert in a local rehearsal room for another player, and that's how we met Rob.
And I think it's because I was in a club. We were out doing the acoustic thing mid 80s or whatever. And I went to a club and I heard Pump Up the Volume by Mars. And I just thought, now this is what I want to do this. Because I just like the force of the bass drum but we like guitars. So we thought, well, how can we use guitars but in a not a dance track, sort of dance pop track. So that's sort of why the riff is in there, and the Armand model back section was a guitar riff. Da, 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 da.
We just sung it.
So we just sung the guitar riff. So we've always liked that sort of, well, certainly me, I've always liked that four on the floor, happy house club stuff, always. Disco, I'm not so much. Richard is a bigger fan of disco than me, but I really like that.
And I'm such a hot dancer.
Yeah, it's because you're dancing.
Because I'm such a hot dancer.
So I always really like that sort of club stuff, that happy house thing. It was great.
Yeah.
So that's what we tried to.
But when you go out to New York City in the mid '80s, you move from the UK to New York.
Yeah.
Was the plan to be signed as a rock band or as an acoustic band, or is it just, well, we're going to move because summer in New York is nice?
Well, summer in New York is nice.
It's nice. That's true.
We lived in a crack house.
We did. Yep, we did.
Which was, and there's a whole story there, which if we had longer, we'll tell you. We didn't realise it, but we were sort of ahead of our time, really. We went out with it was just a beatbox.
Oh, it was a Walkman.
A Walkman with
a
cassette with the backing track on it, and then I would just sing.
By the way, poor Jeremy's 26. He has no idea what a Walkman is. I'm telling you.
Oh, fuck you, Mitch. I know the shit.
It's a for masturbation.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, so we would turn up at these shows. We had the Walkman.
Yeah.
We put the cassette in. I'd play live guitar over the track. Richard would sing. And we were doing shows around New York like that. And people were looking at us like, what the fuck is this? And we played the Knitting Factory. And the next day, was it the New York Times or New York Post? Times. Someone from New York Times was there and they did this rave review about we were this bonkers band. And suddenly record companies started phoning up. So we did a deal with capital EMI,
yeah.
And then that deal just went nowhere. So when we got back to the UK and we started doing the acoustic thing again, we got bored really quickly, and then we thought let's just do something we've never done. So we hooked up with Rob Manzoli through a local rehearsal room,
yeah.
And we said to Rob, all the ideas you've got are going to go in the bin. All the ideas we've got are going to go in the bin, and we're going to write a brand new track as of now. Nothing we've ever thought of will be in this track. And the first song we wrote was I'm Too Sexy.
Yeah. And we pursued it because it made us laugh.
We just thought it was fun.
We just thought it was fun.
It makes me laugh. Listen, I'm telling you, I spent the early 90s doing I'm too sexy for my shoes, I'm too sexy for this car, I'm too sexy for the gym. I mean, we did that all day long. That was the running gag. Before we get to stuck in the past here, let's quickly talk about Good Times, Everybody, which is the new EP that came out in June of this year.
Yep.
Just quickly talk to me about the urge to keep writing new music, because you have I'm Too Sexy, you have these other tracks. You could just go, be on a festival and play I'm Too. In fact, you could probably play I'm Too Sexy 10 times and the crowd would just keep going crazy.
Yes.
So what compels you to keep mixing it up and keep coming up with new stuff?
To be honest with you, it's what we don't really enjoy the music industry very much in terms of the business and the fame side. We found being famous I found it a pretty horrible experience personally, which is why we sort of mid-90s we said let's just stick to our own label and do what we do and keep our fingers crossed.
Also, we're not very good at taking instruction, I don't think.
No, we're quite self-opinionated. So when we sit in an A&R meeting with some 30-year-old guy who's telling me what we should be doing, actually, it doesn't matter what age he is really, but we don't respond very well to being told what to do. So we thought, well, let's just stick to our own label, and we just put stuff out. I mean, on that EP, there's Good Times Everybody and another song called Tide, and Tide over here went #1. There's a new chart called the Heritage Chart, which is for older bands like us. And we went #1 on that with that, and we were very happy about that. And Tide's been very well received. So we thought Good Times Everybody would be the track, but it was the other track that got the attention, I think, because it's slightly different to what people were expecting. And also Richard sings, the song's in D, and he drops to the low octave, the low D. So if you're playing guitar and you drop your low E string down to a tone down to D, that's the note he's hitting. And a lot of people find that bass baritone thing quite fascinating. So I think that's why it had appeal.
When we went to the States with I'm Too Sexy, initially, every radio station said, "Can you do the intro? Can you do the intro?" And I didn't really understand why they were asking us to do that. And now I know it's because they thought we detuned the voice.
Yeah.
Right. Like I always thought that was a harmonizer or something, know.
No,
bass baritone. So
I'm a bass baritone, so that's quite easy for me to hit.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you to record a radio ID for my show saying The Jeremy White Show.
You're going to have to drop that a whole octave.
Yeah.
But, talking about this new music that you guys put out, you're saying that, Tide went #1 on the Heritage Chart.
Sure.
What radio stations in London would be supporting you now? Would it be Absolute? Would Paul Hayes on Magic be spinning it on a Saturday afternoon?
It was getting picked up by Radio Jackie, I think, and United DJs were playing it a lot. And there were some other satellite stations. I don't really know, actually. The chart popped up and we were top 10, then top 5, and it went number 1.
Yeah.
And the Heritage chart is beginning to get some traction because it's so different to what other radio stations are playing. So,
right. If you listen to the Vodafone Big Top 40 on Capitol and all those different, chart shows, they're all pretty straightforward top 40, and they're not really, keen on going out of the box in the sense. You listen to Capitol and it's all of that really UK centric house stuff. If you listen to Radio X, it's very alternative, modern English rock. So, there needs to be a place for, the Heritage Act to have music exposed to.
Absolutely. What's weird, I think, is that we have in the Western culture generally, we have an obsession with diversity in almost everything. That's the key word. But weirdly, in pop music, that's not the case. We don't really go for diversity in pop music.
No, it has to be as white as possible.
As white as possible and as safe as possible.
And as auto-tuned
as possible.
Yeah.
And we grew up. I remember when I was a kid and I heard "Ride a White Swan," Mark Bolan, for the very first time, T-Rex, and that I can never forget that because I didn't understand any of it. It didn't have any drums. I couldn't hear any bass. It didn't have it seemed to come out of nowhere. And so I've always grown up liking music that seems to come out of nowhere. You know, like Alex Harvey or Beefheart, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The stuff that's completely, as you say, completely out the box. That's what I am. And second, I remember we did a few shows right at the beginning with Sexy, and there was one Radio 1 DJ, and we came out and sort of pounced around doing this song in this disco, and this DJ looked at us like, what the fuck are these guys doing?
we all did back in the early 90s, I have to say.
So did we, I think. And
it was just, and every time we do it, even now, I still like it because it cheers me up. I still like it.
It's just fun. There's nothing wrong with fun. Fun never gets old.
No,
that's true.
But the problem with fun in the UK, at least, I think, is if our first hit single had been something really depressing, I think we would have been taken more seriously. I think so. I think.
Yeah.
You always have a problem if you come out with something that's slightly comic.
UK's quite snobby.
It's quite snobby like that, So I think if we were, I don't know, if our first thing had been a bit less of a jokey thing, I think it would have been easier further down the road. But you play the cards you're given. That's it.
You do. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, as an artist, you don't necessarily just want to be big in, your hometown. You want to be worldwide. Some of my best friends are from the UK. Like I'm really good friends with Paul Hayes, who's on Magic in London, and a couple of other radio guys. And we talk about this all the time. And I vacation over there a lot. And they all say it's miserable over here. Nobody will ever be supportive of you or positive of anything you do. They're all jealous fucks. Behind your back, they're saying, "Oh, mate, really fantastic work." Behind your back, they're like, "Cheeky cunt, fucking wanker."
That is absolutely true.
That's 100% true.
That's 100%. And in fact,
kind of sounds like Canada just a little bit. Let me just get back to "I'm Too Sexy" for a second. What's the story on the bass and the recording of the bass? My understanding is that you ran through it once, warts and all, and that was it.
No. What happened was the bass line was originally on a synth. It
was Richard's bass line,
and it was. I just broke this bass on the synth, and it was for another song. And Fred and Rob were working on it. I went into another room because it was in this basement studio because it was really hot, and I could still hear the bass line running round and round. And I just started singing "I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt." That's why I started doing that, and we all thought it was extremely funny. And then we thought, well, actually, maybe that's a better idea than the idea we're working on. So that's what we did. And from that moment, it took us a while. It took us a while because we didn't have much money, so we had to save up to get in the studio. And also, the original version of "I'm Too Sexy" had a minor key play out of about 4 minutes, which killed it completely.
Oh my God.
We sort of do a similar thing now, but live, and it goes a bit sort of.
It goes a bit spacey. It's not minor.
A bit trance, right at the end. It's quite cool. Yeah. But what we did with the bass line, we got Phil Spalding to play the bass line live on bass because we wanted him to follow the melody but augment it, and that's what he did a great job. And I think his bass take was probably once or twice. Yeah. I would think. Certainly the flip in the middle, the bum 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 bum. Yeah. That was one take, I think. And he was
Was it
yeah,
live?
just,
It up?
yeah,
Live bass, live in this.
yeah. And Phil always he plays very hard, so he purposely pulls notes slightly sharp, so the bass really pops out sometimes. And he's a great player. And he did a very good job.
He did all the bass on Deeply Dippy too.
And Don't Talk to Us Kiss.
Yeah.
Huh.
He's
You know,
good.
you got to talk about the drum sound on "I'm Too Sexy" because talk about one of the most iconic drum fills of all time. That do 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 do.
Yeah, yeah. It's a tuned snare, as far as I understand it. The programming was done by a DJ who I was friends with, called Tommy D, and Tommy was into that whole house thing. So he put together a couple of beats, meshed these couple of beats together that made the backing track, and the da-da is a tuned snare.
Yeah.
So that's a snare being tuned up, as far as I understand it. And we knew we wanted it to be a dance track, but it's only we weren't really sure. But because I knew Tommy was a DJ and I went to the same clubs he went to, I said, you know the sort of stuff I like, or we like. It's this sort of house thing. So he put those beats together. That was pretty much. I think then the brass section.
Yeah.
The little brass swells, that was just programmed.
I can remember I was working in the gym. We'd recorded "I'm Too Sexy" as a kind of quasi acoustic-y type thing. And Fred came in, having spoken to Tommy D, with the drum pattern and all that stuff that Tommy was envisaging with the track. But obviously it was just a drum track. It was nothing else.
No.
And Fred played it to me, and I thought, "The fuck is that? It's rubbish." Rubbish. I couldn't see it at all. I could not see it. But it's only many, many moons later when it was all put together, like, oh, okay, I'm getting it now. I would be the slowest A&R man in the history of pop music.
It's one of those tracks that works because everything else in it works. And even the little party sample that we put together, which is in the choruses, you take that out of the track and the track feels weird. It's a very odd song, because the slightest change in it, because we've had to re-record it for a couple of other things, unless you copy that particular recipe, the song doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
It's very odd.
Yeah. In fact, with the original version of the original vocal version was stored by a label and badly stored, so it was corrupted. So I had to re-sing it. So this was many years later. So I sang it, and it was all perfectly in tune and everything. And I thought, oh, that sounds pretty good. And then a few weeks later, they phoned up and said, well, you can't use it. So I said, well, what do you mean you can't use it? They said, well, it's all in tune. So I said, what do you mean it's all in tune? Of course it's in tune. I've been singing it for 20 years. The thing about the original is the vocal is not quite in.
No, it's not.
It's not quite in tune.
And it's also it's the demo vocal.
It's the demo vocal. I didn't really know what I was doing. I'd never sung that low before. I wanted to be Steve Tyler. That's what I wanted to be. So, doing that whole "I'm Too Sexy" thing was not really what I thought. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. So, there you go.
Who thought it would be so difficult?
Huh?
Yeah. I said, who'd have thought it would be so difficult,
It's just, because for us at that time, we'd done acoustic stuff, Rob had done a lot of funk stuff. So for all three of us, we were in a very new area. We hadn't really, I don't think any of us really knew what we were doing.
No, we didn't.
Absolutely honest.
We're experimenting.
Okay.
So you said that's the so on the big radio track, that's the demo vocal?
Yeah.
That vocal performance, to be honest, though, it's great because there's so many little subtle nuances in there where you say it's the way you say certain words like I'm too sexy for my hat, or or the way you disco dancing, it's very there's so many little nuances in it, and it's so cool.
Well, I finally found a way of making money out of a speech impediment, which is actually quite useful for me.
I do want to ask you about this one track, because I used to be friends with Doug Feger of the Knack before he passed away, and he always said that My Sharona was his golden albatross, in the sense that it was golden because it paid for his cars and his pool and his house, but it was an albatross because every time he went to the record company, they would say, "That's great, but we don't hear My Sharona." So how much of a door opener was I'm Too Sexy, and how much of an impediment was it, where people went, "That's nice, boys, but yeah, you don't have another single. Go back to work."
Well, that was sort of the case, but what happened with Don't Talk to Us Kiss, which was the second single, that went top 5 at Christmas, and that was the year that Freddie Mercury died. And so it was Queen, us, KLF, and somebody else, And so everyone thought it was a one-hit wonder until Don't Talk to Kiss came along, and it went very. Don't Talk in some territories did better than Sexy.
Germany.
Germany as an example, certain northern, certainly Sweden, those sort of places, and it did really well in South America. And so everyone was expecting us to do the one track, and then we did that, and then Deeply Dippy. Then the album sold well, and then so we sort of beat that. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? Because in some countries you are seen. I always see the market as a global market. Dividing up into countries or cities seems pretty ridiculous to me. So if there are very few bands who are one-hit wonders, but and I don't see the Knack as a one-hit wonder, but I do understand what he's saying, and that's why we stopped going to record companies.
I was just going to say that
we didn't. We just we stayed independent because we just thought I'm never having that conversation ever. I can't be bothered. So.
Yeah. Also, everything is now round the wrong way. There was a time I've said this before, but when I was a kid, I remember going to a party and they were playing Atom Heart Mother. This party, and I'd been listening to the Beatles for the last, previous whatever it was, and I just thought it was the Atom Heart Mother thing. Pink Floyd was the biggest load of rubbish I'd ever heard. Every song was 10 minutes long. There were no hooks. You couldn't dance. You know what I mean? And then I realised they were wild. They were ahead of me. They were way ahead of me, and that's how it should be. The problem with if you listen to labels too much, or in a way to TV too much, or the audience too much, you end up following them, and that is not your job. As an artist, your job is to do what you want and hope that people follow you. If they don't, that's your problem.
Yeah.
But that's how it should be. That's the order of the march, if you like. The artist should be out in front, not following the people who approve.
Right. And that's the good thing about having your own label and your own releases, is that now you don't have to have those discussions. And let me ask you, is it sort of rewarding and freeing to be able to just create and not have to create for an AOR market or create for a hot whatever market? Just go, this is what I'm doing.
No,
it is. I mean, the last single was 3 minutes 48 or something. The new EP we're doing, one of the record singles is 5 minutes. We're not taking any notice of anybody. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And we aren't very extravagant with our lifestyle. We don't have lots of cars and multiple houses and ex-wives and alimony, and we don't have that with loads of kids and stuff. So we tend to be quite, we don't put ourselves into a corner where we have to earn X amount of money to survive. We've never done that. So we tend to live quite modest lives, really, and just so we give ourselves that margin of error.
Well, we have to obviously with recording.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have to make sure there's the money there for the studio and all the BVs and all that kind of stuff. So we're very conscious of that the whole time. But the freedom that it gives you is really cool.
Yes.
Sometimes, as an example, many years ago we were signed to a German label, and we'd done this single and saw the video. They played for a video, and we all had a meeting. They showed us the video, and it was crap. The video was absolutely shit, right? So this video is shit, right? This video is absolutely crap. You know what they said? 30% of everything we do is shit.
What? Aim high.
Yeah, and that was meant to make us feel better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's, over a period of years, we've just learned, that life is so short, relatively speaking. You've got to do stuff that you dig and believe in. And 9 times out of 10, punters are more imaginative than anybody in the business. They really are. They're ready to listen. They really are.
I think if we were in love with the celebrity thing, I think we would have.
I'm in love with you.
Yes, exactly. That's not weird at all.
There's a whole movie there.
There's a whole film there.
Absolutely.
So what was I going to say? Yeah, that's right. Because the whole fame thing didn't really ever bother us. So that's why we've never done reality TV or the panel shows and all that stuff that some bands like or some people do. And I think if you're into that celebrity thing, signing to a major, being part of that wheel makes sense.
If you're good at it.
If that's your life you want to lead, that's up to you. It's not how we like to live. So we don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. So we just kind of do our own thing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
you just have to. Yeah. You just have to